So how the heck did anyone survive babysitting in the 80s and 90s? Find out with me when we look at Alone in the Dark, The Babysitter's Nightmare 1 after the title. Well, hello and welcome to Trash with a capital T, where we give trashy books and movies the love they truly deserve. And some deserve more than others. They know what they did. I'm your host, Bobby. New videos are posted here every Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. If you like what you see during the video, give me a like. It makes me feel good and it helps the channel. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any new content. So today we are going to be talking about Alone in the Dark by Daniel Parker. This is book 1 in the Babysitter's Nightmare series. This was a teen fiction series from, I want to say, the 90s. Let me verify that. 95, yes. From the 90s that I don't think had much of an impact. There are only like 5 books in the series, which tells me it kind of fizzled out. But that was also when you were seeing a glut of teen horror at that time. So it kind of makes sense that it got lost in the fray, which makes me sad because I actually had a lot of fun with this book. I'm going to move it over to this end so you can see it over the mic. The cover art is kind of, it's good, but it gives more thriller vibes than horror vibes. And I'm going to be honest, I was not ready for what this book is. So there are going to be some light spoilers, but I actually do recommend hunting down a copy and giving this book a try. I'm actually going to try and find some of the other ones in the series. I enjoyed this, and I didn't spend a lot of money to buy this. Now, my copy is in rough shape, but it's readable. It's in one piece. It's holding up. So I highly recommend checking this one out. Do not go in expecting a piece of horror masterwork, but for a fun 90s teen horror novel, it is enjoyable, and it deals with something that you don't see a ton of, and I really enjoyed. Cults. Yes, it is a babysitter versus a cult. It does get into a little bit of folk horror, but this is a little more Servant of the Twilight than it is, say, The Wicker Man. And actually, this really does feel like an almost YA take on Dean Koontz's Servants of the Twilight, which is a book I have read and I enjoyed, but is really overwritten, and can be kind of a slog to get through. This is as opposite of that as possible. So the general gist of the book is we follow Gretchen, who is a senior in high school. Her junior year was kind of crappy. She just wants to get past it, get past all of the teenage drama that had been inflicted on her, specifically her boyfriend Todd leaving her for that bitch Dana. It's the best way to describe Dana. And so she takes an au pair job, working with a family that her mother knows, and she's watching their son Adam at this secluded mansion on a cliff that overlooks the beach. And it sounds like the greatest job in the world, especially because Gretchen likes Adam. She's met him before. He's kind of precocious, acts way too old for his age, but is generally a fairly nice kid. So she has no problem that she's going to be spending a ton of time with this kid. And she's ready to just let go of her junior year and all the drama and get on with her summer and kind of recuperate. So she gets there and things are off instantly. Adam's parents are rushing out of there as fast as possible. They seem extra cold towards their son. Adam seems a little upset. She is not sure about what. Maybe it's just because his parents are leaving. But they settle into a nice little routine that first night. Although she does get a weird note telling her to leave because Adam is theirs, whoever wrote this note, and the trail of blood will end in blood, whatever that means. And she's kind of bothered by this, but she kind of puts it away. And then the next day she goes to the mall, and of course, with Adam, and of course, runs into that bitch Dana with Todd and this guy named Xander, who he'll become more important later. And just that sets off everything. This is a book that just wants to get you into the action as fast as possible. Almost to the point where it does kind of make the book a little incomprehensible at times in the beginning. Things happen that don't necessarily make sense in the real world. There is a murder that they're worried that Gretchen's going to get blamed for, but how the heck she could have committed it, no one knows. It's very obvious that this was just like, okay, I have 160 pages to tell a rip-roaring cult story, so let's get to the good parts as soon as we can. And once we get through the setup, which is probably the first 50 pages, it turns into a cat and mouse kind of chase novel where the cult is coming after Gretchen and Adam, and more people get pulled into the story, including Xander and Dana. It's fun. That I read this quickly. It was 2 sittings, but it was, it didn't take me hours to get through. It wasn't a slog. The writing in this one is actually, plotting mess aside, the writing in this is actually my favorite part because the characters don't sound too old. They sound appropriate for being 18-year-olds. And yes, Adam is supposed to sound older, but he doesn't sound ridiculous. One of the problems you run into a lot, especially with the 1990s and 1980s and 90s horror novels that were aimed at teens, is the characters all sound very 1950s. They sound very old. And part of that is because of the people who were writing them. They wrote them as they would imagine a teenager to speak. So you'd hear a lot of weird, awkward slang and stuff like that. This book just jettisons all of that. It doesn't try to sound young, and in turn, it just makes the character sound age appropriate, which I appreciate. I really, really did enjoy the writing. The pacing is a little wonky. The chase scene starts, the chase scene is exciting, and then we get some kind of slowdown as things are kind of explained and characters kind of are put into place for the finale. And then you get a big action-packed finale and a nice little resolution with a cliffhanger if the story was ever to continue. I do not think any of the other books in the Babysitter's Nightmare series continue this story. I'm pretty sure they're all standalones. And that's fine. Leave it open. But I will say I'm disappointed that these books are kind of lost to time. Like, I had the same thing. Last video I did a Terror Academy book. And these series are not bad. They're just as good, if not better in a lot of cases, than Fear Street. But because they don't have the name recognition of R.L. Stine, they are allowed to fall into obscurity. And I really wish someone would rescue these. I don't know what the rights situation is for some of this stuff, because a lot of this is author by hire kind of books where they would be hired by the publisher, in this case Harper, and they would kind of work to either an outline or they would just have a general gist of what the series is going to be and thematically write something to that. So I'm not sure where these books stand, but I wish they would somehow get rescued, even if it's just in Kindle versions, because I think they're worthwhile reads. They're fun reads. There's something we don't see a lot of these days because books now tend to be gigantic. And that's fine if people enjoy them, but these are short, fun, quick, easy reads. These are the kinds of things that you can pick up and devour in a couple hours, an hour or two. They're written simply but easily, and this does not feel dumb. This feels like it was written to be a quick teen thriller that you can read while sitting on the school bus and heading to school, or in between classes, or during lunch or study hall. It feels like it's something that was made to be picked up and quickly enjoyed. And I kind of miss that, because I don't know about you, but a 400 to 500 page book is a commitment. This book is like, this is nothing. This is, I got a free hour. Why not? What am I going to do? Sit around and click on the TV and maybe pay attention to or half pay attention to a cooking show while double screening it on my cell phone? No, I sit down, I ease my brain out, and I enjoy something like Alone in the Dark. So I wish these books could be rescued. And I do actually plan on finding more in this series, because if this is the kind of stuff that the series is focusing on, I'm all for it. Now, this does fall into a lot of the same tropes that you would expect from teen fiction at this time. There are deaths in the book. They mostly always happen off page. The bodies are usually found later in some ridiculous situation. But you don't have a lot of on-page violence. And what violence there is not described in detail. There is no sex. There is no drinking. These characters are fairly wholesome. There's not any, I think maybe there's a damn or a bitch in there somewhere, but language-wise, it's pretty pulled back. You didn't really get a lot of spiciness. You didn't really get a lot of pushing boundaries in these books. You were doing something that, in some cases, actually did get turned into TV movies, but was about the level of what you'd see in your average TV movie of the week. So, with that in mind, it's still enjoyable. And for a nice spring or summer day, you're sitting around in the backyard. This is kind of the greatest thing. It's great. You just sit down and you're able to vanish into the story. And it looks like Daniel Parker worked on the Countdown series, which I do want to cover on here, because if you've seen any of my other videos, I also cover the Left Behind the Kids books. And Countdown is a kind of a non-Christian counter to the Left Behind series. If you are familiar with it at all, it has to do with the end of the world and a mass loss of life. And it's really interesting. And I think it ties into like Lilith and some other stuff. I read the first one and it's quite thrilling. And it matches with what I read here, which is quick pace, exciting, really not going to sweat the details. And we're just going to get into this and enjoy it. And I liked the characters. They weren't annoying or cloying or chirp or screechy. They were just, we got something to deal with. We got to deal with it. And they're appropriately level-headed. They don't suddenly turn into like military strategists, but you know what I mean? So yes, I highly, highly recommend Alone in the Dark by Daniel Parker. I would definitely say if you can hunt down a copy for a reasonable price, go for it. I saw a bunch of these on eBay and thrift books that weren't super expensive. I think I paid maybe $8 for this, which is pretty good. Now, like I said, my copy's a little on the rough side, but it's holding together. Like it's not like pages are falling out or anything. So definitely check this one out. Sorry for the glare. I wish these would get rescued. Like I wish more of these 90s books would get rescued but I mean, maybe they just think there's no market out there. I don't know. All right. This video is a little shorter than my usual because I didn't want to go too far into spoiler territory with that book. Because I want you guys to go out and try and find a copy and read it. I think it's enjoyable and I think it's worth your time. So having said that, general housekeeping. Like I already said, new videos are posted here every Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. If you like what you saw, give me a like, makes me feel good, and it helps the channel. And don't forget to subscribe so you do not miss any of my content. And as I always say, love what you love, enjoy what you're reading and watching, and have an amazing morning, afternoon, or evening. And I will see you guys in the next one.